My name is Andrew Papastefanou, and we'll be talking about whether you are wasting money on your SOC. And really, that is for people who perhaps already have a SOC, but I appreciate that many of you might not. So, we'll be covering what is a SOC, whether you think you're ready for one, the specific questions that you can ask yourself in preparation. And then if you have decided, yes, you're ready to look at a SOC, how do you evaluate it, both before buying it and after you've bought it, just to make sure that you're getting value and you're not wasting money on a SOC. Just a little bit about myself and the partnership between Talanos Cybersecurity, which is my company, and 2Sec. We've partnered with 2Sec to provide the brand new MDR XP360 service, which is an offering of 2Sec, which they're making to their customers for providing 24/7 managed detection and response, which is why we're talking on the stand today. My personal interests, I'm very much on the threat intelligence side, but more from the perspective of gaining intelligence to perform proactive defense, otherwise known as active defense strategies. So, how do you not quite hack the bad guys, but what things can you do to make their job much harder in hacking you? So, for example, you might know what data is on the dark web, or perhaps domains that they've spun up on malicious infrastructure. We'll go and take down that infrastructure before the hacker has even had an opportunity to use it in an attack against you. And those are very specific, proactive defense strategies which can be used. I've contributed a few of these to the MITRE Defend model or matrix, which you may be familiar with. Some of these contributions are very much around bringing active defense uh, outside of the boundaries of the corporate environment. So basically, taking action in third party or outside environments to defend yourself. I'm also a NCSC I-100 volunteer responsible for the incident insights sessions. So basically, any incidents that happen within industry or government, getting the lessons learned, bringing those together, and sharing that back with the group so that everyone can learn. So those are my key interests. My credentials in being able to speak to you today about SOC and whether you're wasting money on SOC comes from 10 years of building and operating many SOCs across multiple geographies. And what I was finding is the same questions and the same issues came up again and again, which I thought I would address in this presentation. A very quick guide, in 10, 15 minutes on the questions you should ask yourself in preparing for a SOC. So firstly, what is a SOC? I've used a very dramatic picture on my slide there of an atomic bomb, but in cybersecurity parlance, it's quite often used to describe a cybersecurity incident or a massive cyber loss event, where the activities that you take before the boom, left of boom, are very much the preparation, risk management activities. And then everything that's right of boom is detecting the attack itself, but then also responding to that attack and containing that attack. And really, what is an attack in the context of many businesses? It can be any kind of cyber loss event, whether it's the integrity of your source code that's been messed with, the availability of your systems, if they've brought down key systems that impacts the availability of services, or just privacy and confidentiality of the information you hold. Any kind of loss event we would consider a cyber attack, and a SOC is going to help you prepare for or perform all the functions and capabilities that are both left of boom to prepare, and that decreases the overall likelihood of an attack if you want to talk about it in risk in relation to risk management. And a SOC will help you with everything that's on the right of boom, which is minimizing the overall impact should a risk materialize. So making sure that they don't get all the data, that they don't destroy all the systems, that actually the business can come back from what is a very traumatic event. Now, that kind of gives you an idea of the capabilities that you need to put in place, or at least the outcomes of those capabilities. But when you are implementing a SOC, what are the capabilities that you actually need to have in place? So we've drawn guidance from a couple of frameworks and educational platforms. So anyone who studied a CISSP, I've done my CISSP, and you get the big fat textbook that's got 8 security domains in it. Actually, when you're implementing a SOC, the two most important domains are security architecture and engineering, which is all about selecting the right security controls to put in place to prepare, detect, and respond to a cybersecurity incident, as well as the security operations portion of the domain. So this again, it talks to all the operational activities that a SOC should perform. Things like logging is a fairly obvious one, but also testing of disaster recovery plans, performing business continuity exercises, vulnerability management and patch management, change management processes, as well as when an incident does take place, how do you support an investigation? What are the forensics capabilities that you need to have in place? So CISP lays down the requirement for all of these different capabilities, and these are largely around risk management and conducting incident management. So left of boom and right of boom. But another way to have a look at the capabilities required is NIST has really good frameworks and standards that again guide us on how to do really comprehensive risk management, as well as how to respond to incidents. So left of boom and right of boom. And if you have a look at the diagram that I've put together here, if you overlay CISSP capabilities and NIST capabilities, they align quite well. So they draw a lot of influence from each other. And when you overlap the left of boom and right of boom activities, there's a really interesting thing where a lot of the functions that you need to perform, the processes that you need to perform, are the same. And if you have a look at basically the 4 key areas, left of boom and right of boom, you'll notice that most of them are human-led. So there's just a very small component in there, which is largely to do with the detection of the attack, analyzing the attack, and where the innovation is coming, the response to an attack. Those elements are being automated. There's a lot of technology involved. But in selecting the controls and performing the risk management, rolling out those controls, eradicating and recovering from a cyber attack, as well as the forensic activities, which are the post-incident activities, these are all human-led. And so a SOC, if you look at these capabilities, is people, process, and technology, and you just cannot get rid of the human element. So effective cybersecurity operations needs people. And this is where outsourcing a SOC comes in handy, because you get access to a pool of highly skilled, highly trained, very experienced people who are dedicated to being excellent across these processes, left of boom and right of boom. So not every business needs a SOC, and not every business is at the right stage of security maturity to need a SOC. And we've had quite a few prospects come to us to have a discussion about SOC who just simply weren't ready. Someone comes to ask us for a SOC, we ask them why. Tell us why you think you need a SOC. And I've tried to distill the thought process into 3 very simple questions. First one, and if the answer to this is no, proceed no further. Do you have the basics in place? So do you have things like your cyber essentials in place? If you don't, if end users still have administrative access on their endpoints and laptops, the SOC is just going to be responding day in, day out to new malware, unwanted programs, credential stealers on those laptops all day and all night. So unless you've gone through the pain of removing admin access from all of those machines and rolling out a nice change management process or an application whitelisting process on those endpoints, a SOC is going to be a complete waste of time and money. If you haven't implemented multi-factor authentication on all of your systems, again, the SOC is just going to be responding to people who have lost their credentials and people are just logging into the email without MFA. If you're not training your staff, they're just clicking links day in, day out, the SOC is just going to be consumed with responding to things like that. And so really, you're not going to get good value for money. And you should have those essentials in place. You should have some of the basic tooling in place, and Cyber Essentials is again a good indication of what those technologies are. And if you don't have those things, 2Sec have a consultancy and do the assessments around Cyber Essentials. So absolutely, you're in the right place to be talking to these people to take that first step. But let's say you do have those essentials in place and you're ready to move to the next question. Perhaps you're struggling to answer your board when they're asking you, are we safe? So you might be a small IT team, you've got the essentials in place, but the thing that you're struggling with now is managing those security tools, configuring them properly, to make sure that you're getting everything out of them. And actually, it's just noise. You've got an EDR tool, you've got email security, you've got firewall logs, and they're all shouting at you day in, day out that there's potential attacks and potential vulnerabilities, and none of it is tied together. You don't know what to prioritize or how to respond, and actually, you don't know if you're safe. It's too much information. It's information overload, and you're now at the point where you want to seriously be able to answer your board the question, are we safe? Are we doing the right things? Are we focusing in the right areas? Have we modeled the right threats? All of these things a SOC can help you with. And if that's a question that you're asking, then a SOC is the right way to go, because a SOC will provide you all of that visibility. Final question, and this talks largely to budget and value. Have you determined along with your board that a certain cyber loss event could destroy your business? So there are certain things that you're worried about that you knew that if they were to happen, your business would no longer exist. And your board now understands the need for a SOC. They're willing to put some money towards it, understanding the value of being able to minimize both the likelihood and the impact of that particular loss event. So, it's got nothing really to do with the size of your business, but it's more to do with the risk. If something were to happen on a Saturday night, and you needed a 24/7 response for this particular cyber event, would you be able to respond to it? And if you're asking that question and the answer is yes, then you absolutely do need a SOC. A SOC is the right thing for you. So if you've come through all of that and you've said you've answered positively to those questions, you can sort of proceed to, right, we need a SOC. Where do we start? First question you've got to ask yourself is, do we want to build it or do we want to buy it? Or outsource it? The only advice that I can really give you there is, as a SOC business owner, I can tell you it's a full-time business. There are lots of elements to it. The people challenges, the technology challenges, processes and integration and training, recruitment, retention, all of these things make SOC a business on its own. And really, the value comes from running that kind of business when you can do it at scale. So unless you can build a SOC within your business and you build it once and your business is so large that actually the scale is there to be able to provide this service as a shared service into maybe multiple businesses or multiple departments, then it makes sense to build. But in all other senses, you should be buying in or outsourcing your SOC. Now, who do you talk to help you make that decision or get the information? Perhaps which suppliers to talk to. I absolutely recommend you phone a friend. And what kind of friends are available? Well, here at 2Sec, we've also got Ben Delaselle, who will be speaking today, who is a virtual CISO. So you can speak to a fractional CISO who will give you portions of their time to help you understand this process, and to help you evaluate a SOC. I know Ben has done specific engagements where he will talk to people just about how to go about procuring your SOC. And the thing about virtual CISOs is they've got a Rolodex of trusted suppliers, people who they've dealt with before, who they know can deliver, who they could recommend in as part of a short list in the process. And that's already a huge advantage in knowing that it doesn't matter which one you pick, they've all been good, they've all delivered. So, I also recommend you bring in someone who's got a nice network. Um, don't fall them for the marketing engine. Some of the SOCs out there put millions into marketing, and they'll pay you to come and do an assessment, or bribe you with vouchers or take you to dinners. The thing that matters is references. So absolutely, all throughout before the process and throughout the procurement process, be speaking to references, be speaking to customers, be speaking to the network around that business to make sure that they're legit. Um, Quite often, a good way of evaluating the complete SOC offering is with a framework like the NIST Cybersecurity Framework version 2, which we've done many times, mapping the SOC capabilities, functions, and services to NIST CSF, because you can use that as your sort of overarching cybersecurity maturity with a RACI matrix that says, okay, our SOC is going to be responsible for these elements of the CSF, and we're going to be responsible for these elements of the CSF, and these are the integration points. So, NIST is a really great way of comparing vendors. But the thing that I can recommend there, which matters most, where you'll find the most differentiating factors between SOC providers, is in containment. So if they're just going to raise tickets on you, and your IT team are still responsible for containing and running those actions, there's not a lot of value there. If you're going to bring in a 24/7 SOC service, which I absolutely recommend, because the bad guys are always working outside of business hours and on public holidays, and it was very busy with this Easter weekend that's passed. Focus on containment. What service are you going to get in right of boom scenarios? Because those are the ones that matter most. It's likely that everybody's going to suffer an attack. So what matters most is minimizing that impact. Um, Good relationships are formed on good contracts. Making sure that you go through those terms is essential, and that you craft those commercial agreements with the vendor is essential. It's not legal's problem. It's absolutely business's problem to make sure termination and exit clauses are right. You've got good notice periods, good handover. What happens to the technology in the case of ending the relationship with the vendor? How do you separate that out? Um, uh, there's really good guidance in DORA. So even if you're not a financial services company, what DORA has done is they've specified the types of clauses that you should be looking for in agreements with critical IT service providers around resilience and continuity. So we've actually done a piece of work that maps these contractual DORA engagement requirements to our contract, so you can see the types of clauses. And if you're interested in that, you can ping me, and I'd be happy to send that through to you. Basically, it's the mapping of contractual agreements as per DORA for critical ICT suppliers. Once you've bought your SOC, how do you evaluate that you're getting value for money? Well, I've got on my slide there a picture of a CISO that's got two phones who's looking at absolute chaos. This comes from a conversation, many conversations actually, but there's one that I remember in particular with a CISO who, when we were talking to them about their existing SOC supplier, was very proud. He brought out his second phone and he showed us, this is his personal phone and this is his work phone, and he's always got the two phones with him. He's always available. He's always online. He's always ready to respond. And I said to him, but none of Talanos's CISOs carry two phones. They actually get to go on holiday because they know that we're containing on their behalf. We've simplified the operations for them, that they no longer need to be involved in the operations themselves, but they're made aware. So they simply are informed, largely once we've already done the heavy lifting. So, if that's you, if you've got a SOC and you've got two phones and you're looking at a lot of complexity, you're wasting your money on your SOC, and you should be evaluating a different SOC offering. Again, your SOC should be delivering beyond the boom, beyond the right of boom, more like. They should be focused on left of boom as well. That's just as important. I know the MDR acronym focuses very much on detection response, but you want to avoid detection and response. You want to focus on the left of boom preparation. So is your SOC helping you to identify security maturity improvements? Are they helping you to reclassify your vulnerabilities just beyond CVSS? So architectural vulnerabilities, misconfigurations that are creating vulnerabilities in your environment. Are they helping you to identify those? And to a large extent, are they helping you to fix them? And are your people freed up? IT is about business enablement, and security is probably about IT enablement. We enable IT to be the business enablers for their business. Is the SOC delivering that to you? We've got a lot of visibility in the SOC, and I talked about how we can help you understand whether the investment in your other security controls is worthwhile. So have you invested, for example, in Mimecast and Microsoft 365, and they're both doing some kind of email security, which is actually the one is overriding what the other's doing, and it's creating a new vulnerability, or the efficacy of Mimecast is decreased because Microsoft 365 isn't doing what it should be doing. All of these things talk to maximizing your existing investment in your security controls in the environment. And then, of course, the most important one, which talks back to contractual commitments again, is, are your SLAs being met? Talanos is a very strict, we're 24/7, so we are detecting all the incidents and triaging them within 15 minutes, because a bad guy can do badness in 15 to 30 minutes. So we've got to be able to triage in 15 and contain in that second 15, being able to remediate within the hour. And we've got very strict SLAs around that. We encourage our customers to measure that along with us, plus 22 other quantitative measurements. I'm not going to go into it now because we're sort of running out of time, but you can certainly ping us and I can send you that list of the other quantitative measurements that we believe a SOC should be measured on.